When this speaker comes on stage, I want y'all to get as loud and crazy as you possibly can. Best known as the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The #1 personal finance book of all time, Robert Kiyosaki has challenged and changed the ways tens of millions of people around the world think about money. He's an entrepreneur, educator, and investor who believes the world needs more entrepreneurs. Please help us welcome Mr. Robert Kiyosaki!
Yeah! Woo! Thank you, so kind, for taking seats. Quick show of hands, how many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Wow, wow, thank you very much. My banker thanks you too. Well, anyway, how many people have not yet read the book? Oh, a few, okay, thank you. It's always good to know some new customers out there. For those who haven't read the book, the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a true story. I grew up in Hawaii, and my poor dad was my real dad, and he was a head of education for the state of Hawaii. Very smart man, PhD, valedictorian, graduated from university in 2 years, straight A student, went on to Stanford, University of Chicago, and Northwestern. So a very smart man, very good man. And my rich dad was my best friend's father. And my best friend's father was a man who never finished school. And the reason he never finished school is because his father died when he was 13, so he took over the family business. So my rich dad was basically self-taught, and he eventually went on to become one of the richest men in the state of Hawaii. And for those of you who read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was really tough to know who to listen to, because both men were poor because they were young, young fathers. But my poor dad always said, watch Rich Dad, he's going to be a very rich man. Now, ironically, my poor dad and my rich dad were adversarial enemies in town. They did not like each other. And I think the reason for it is my poor dad was really a socialist, good man, school teacher, union member. And my rich dad was a capitalist. It was a classical tale of the two ends don't meet. So as a young boy, I remember at age 9, I raised my hand, and I asked the teacher a pretty normal question. When am I going to learn about money? And the teacher couldn't give me an answer. And she said, well, if you stay in school, get good grades, get a job, work hard, you'll be rich. And that didn't work for me because my entire family, they're very good people. On my father's side, they're all PhDs, MBAs, and poor. So I just couldn't get it. So that's when my poor dad suggested I go study with my rich dad. So starting at the age of 9, my rich dad very simply said I had to work for my rich dad for free. And the reason I had to work for him for free is because if I pay you, you start to think like an employee. He says, I will never pay you anything because you'll learn to work for money. And the moment you work for money, you're a slave. My rich dad often said that the difference between a slave and a free man is a paycheck. There's no difference between employees and slaves. He says, if you give an employee money, you got him, you own him, you bought him. He says, you don't want to be on the receiving end of the paycheck, which is an employee. You want to be on the giving end of the paycheck, which is the entrepreneur. So even though I was 9 years old, I didn't really understand it, but I took it all in. And then Rich Dad would have us play Monopoly. At the end of the workday, he taught me about accounting and management and all this of running a business. He owned restaurants and hotels and all that stuff. He would play Monopoly with his son and I. So we'd play Monopoly for hour after hour after hour. And naturally, I'd go home, and my poor dad would ask me, what you been doing all day? And I said, I've been playing Monopoly. Ah! Do your homework. If you don't do your homework, you won't get good. If you don't get good grades, you won't get a good. They have the same parents, I guess, huh? But that's how they train the middle class. Work for a paycheck, get good grades, and get a job. Go to school, get good grades, get a job. And so at the age of 9, I was really kind of messed up because I didn't know who to listen to. And that's how my life began. But my rich dad teaching me to be a rich man just taught me Monopoly. 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. And then he would take his son and me to go look at his 4 greenhouses. And he said, someday, these greenhouses will be our red hotel. I said, okay. So 10 years later, I'm in school. I went to college. I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, New York. Very good school. What? Nobody's heard of that school. And so I graduated from Kings Point. I was in school in New York, and at 19 I came home. 10 years after my rich dad started teaching me to play Monopoly. And when I was 19, he had his red hotel. It was right in smack dab on Waikiki Beach. Today it's the Hyatt Hotel. And so at that point, you know, I'm going, whew. And what I always say is a coin has 3 sides. There's no such thing as a one-sided coin. There's heads on one side, tails on the other. The edge of the coin is where intelligence is. So being intelligent, you know, I stood looking at my poor dad's side. He says, go to school, get a job, work hard. And my rich dad said, don't do that. Okay? So really that's kind of, and so being intelligent, I had to stand there and say, well, which side am I going to listen to? And basically that's where the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad came from. So in 1969, I graduated from Merchant Marine Academy in New York and joined the Marine Corps because the Vietnam War was still on. And it was very unpopular, not like today. You know, I remember being a Marine pilot, lieutenant, getting spit at, you know, and I wanted to shoot the bastard, but anyway, it was like... No, it was hippies versus guys like, you know, I was just fighting for my country. And these bastards are burning their draft cards. You know? So again, it's heads on one side, tails on the other side. And so I sat there listening to this, and my rich dad said, very importantly, both dads said it, the job of a Marine Corps officer is to defend the guy that spits at you. That's tough. I want to kill the fucker. So anyway, I came back from Vietnam in '73. I was shot down, I'm not shot down, but I went down 3 times in my aircraft. And when I came back in '73, my poor dad had been fired. So here was head of education for the state of Hawaii, PhD and all this, he gets fired. And the reason he got fired is he ran for lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii, and he lost. So when he lost as a Republican in a democratic regime in Hawaii, you know, Hawaii is pretty communistic. You know, Forbes magazine calls it the People's Republic of Hawaii. And it's run by labor unions. Nothing right or wrong with it. You know, my father was head of unions too, head of the teachers union. And my rich dad was anti-union. So I sit there and go, not my fight. I just want to be free. So my old man gets fired, and he's unemployed. And when I come back, I come back and I asked my poor dad, so what should I do? Well, when I leave the Marine Corps, I've got 1 more year on my contract. And he says, I'll go back to school, get your MBA, and climb the corporate ladder. So that's something about being intelligent. You know, I looked at both sides. I stood on the edge and I said, my poor dad's side wants me to climb the corporate ladder of the government, you know, be a government employee, join the unions. My rich dad said, be a capitalist. So it wasn't right or wrong. It was in '74 when I graduated, became a capitalist. So I've been an entrepreneur ever since. I'm very happy. I've only had a job for about 4 years. I was working for Xerox after I graduated, after 1974 to '78, just for one thing. I worked for Xerox because All entrepreneurs have to sell. If you can't sell, you're had it. That is true today and forever. The people who can't sell have no income. So that's why it's absolutely brilliant for you guys to be here today, because you're in the information age. And there's another way of selling, which is why it's amazing, selling, the Amazing Academy and all that. What you guys are doing, you're in the best possible place at the right time on this planet. Because I was in the dark ages, and we didn't have cell phones. When I got off the plane, my first product line was a nylon and Velcro surfer wallets. And this is after I got out of Xerox, and I had to sell them. And I still remember coming off a plane, pocket full of quarters. Let's say I'm getting off the plane in Denver, and I got to get on the phone and hope to reach the buyer in New York. Because we didn't have Amazon, we didn't have the web. There was only one distribution system, and that was the traditional brick-and-mortar distribution system. And those buyers held power over manufacturers like me, my wallet company and all this. And if, let's say, Macy's didn't carry my product or JCPenney's didn't carry my product, that was out of business. So I still remember climbing off the plane, hello, is Joe the buyer there? Oh, he's busy. Then I got another quarter. And as I'm talking to him, you need another quarter? So today it's so much easier. Get on your cell phone, crank it, you have Skype, all that stuff. And you have a worldwide market. So you're in the best place at the best time right now to be an entrepreneur. So when I came last year to Amazing, and they are truly amazing. When I looked at the curriculum here, I said, I've got a joint venture with these guys, because what Amazing is doing is what I should have been doing. But I can't do what Amazing does because I'm an old guy. My wife has to show me how to use my cell phone yet. So I just want to say this. When I looked at the 8-week curriculum, effing brilliant. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I know a lot of people stumble, some people don't make it. But the system of teaching you to be an entrepreneur is brilliant. It's basically in 8 weeks, they've compressed 8 years. So it's those 8 years I stumbled and stumbled and stumbled. Flying, I couldn't, there wasn't even a China in those days. I hate to tell you that. China had just opened up, and I still remember crossing from Macau into China, because it was different. So I had to source out of Hong Kong. And I used to go to this one building in Hong Kong, flat broke, paying for my airline ticket, hotel rooms and all this, climbing this building, sourcing manufacturers. The same thing that you guys do. So we got the nylon wallets and all this stuff. I had to ship them all the way to my warehouse in New York, and then go knocking on doors all over the country selling nylon wallets. And I was broke for a year, out of money. But somehow it just kept going. Somehow it just kept going. And then I invented the shoe pocket that goes on the runner's shoes. And I borrowed another $16,000 to advertise the shoe pocket. And business took off. And suddenly I was famous. I've been in Honolulu. They would call me an entrepreneur in the paper. And I'd go to my poor dad. My poor dad says, hey, they called you an entrepreneur. He's a school teacher. I said, yeah. He said, you know what that means? I said, no. He says, it means you're a crook. Why am I a crook, Dad? Because you don't have a job. You're a con man. Jesus. So I go see my rich dad, and he says, keep going. You're still stupid, but keep going. So that's how kind of I learned. And I'll leave you one tip here, is that it was really tough. And I said, oh, if I could only be successful. And the irony is, when I got successful, I went broke. And the reason for that is that I could not fund my success. And what happened is, I forget the year, it was about 1978 or something, and then, yeah, 1978, the business took off. And back then, I had to sell, let's say, to J.C. Penney's, and they'd have $1 million, they'd give me $1 million purchase order. I had to raise the capital to fund that $1 million. And I didn't get paid for 10 months. And so the more J.C. Penney's or Macy's or those guys or Spencer's Gift, Tower Records ordered, the more money I had to raise to fund my inventory. And pretty soon, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I'll leave you with this one thing, is that being an entrepreneur, you reach this level of success, but that presents the next problem. Does that make sense, you guys here? And it's unlike being an employee, because you don't have those problems. But when you become successful an entrepreneur, you have to keep growing, because success forces you to become a better entrepreneur. So if I can leave you with that, it's the most important thing you can take from me today, that's it. Don't ever think that when you're successful, because success presents another set of problems. Okay? Thank you. So I'll just show you this quick diagram here. This is the cash flow quadrant. Would you please put it up there? And it's E, S, B, and the I. Very simply, my poor dad wanted me to be an E and the S, be an employee, and my mother wanted me to be a doctor on the S. I says, one problem, Mom, I'm not smart. She goes, good problem. So I really had no choice. I had to be on the B and the I side, because I'm not very smart. I don't work well with corporate people. I wasn't a good employee. I wasn't a good Marine. I'm a basic entrepreneur. So then I had to go on the B and the I side. And the difference between the B and the I side is your education. You have to have financial education. And financial education is opposite of traditional education. For example, in school, they always tell you to save money. But why the hell would you save money when the banks are printing money? You've got to be nuts. Why would you invest for the long term in the stock market when the stock market's at all-time high? Why would you get a job? Why would you save money? And why would you invest in a 401k when those are the guys that pay the highest taxes in the world? So they don't teach you that in school. So that's why I stay on the B and the I side, because I don't have to have a job, I don't have to pay taxes, I don't have to work. It's opposite. So again, I said all coins have three sides. Heads on one side, tails on the other side, on the edge. So right now, most of you are on the edge. Many of you, I suspect, are E's going to S's, or if you're S's, you're attempting to go to B's. The trouble with being small and going to a B, they're opposite. So that's why, it's always a learning process. You can stay on the E and the S side, but there's one problem with that. Tax. The more you stay on the E and the S side, those are the guys that pay the taxes. On the B and the I side, they don't pay tax. Now, some of you go, oh, that's criminal. It's not criminal, it's stupidity. You know what I mean? How many people would rather not pay tax? Good. And the thing I love about Amazing is you guys are getting in that position right now where you can make as much money as you want and not pay the tax. And I can hear some of you employee mentality, oh, that's criminal, you'll go to jail for that. No, you go to jail if you're a crook. And if you're an employee and you dodge taxes, you should go to jail. But on the B and the I side, they want you to dodge taxes. It's opposite. And it's so opposite, it's hard to see. So with that, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to bring up my friends here. I'll just bring this up. I hang out with entrepreneurs today. I have employees, I love them dearly and all this, but everybody who works in the Rich Dad Company is encouraged to be an entrepreneur. You know, I don't want them to stay with me for life. I love them dearly. I want them to work with me for life, let them be my partners. But I don't want to BS them to say they have a job for life. That's slavery. So I encourage all my employees, the E's and S's, to move. So that's why after I came here last time, everybody went through, I mean, not everybody in my company had the option of coming and doing what you guys do. I want my employees to be free. I don't believe in job security. Thank you. The trouble is, freedom exists on the other side, on the B and the I side. So we have some people at Rich Dad who are in the B, like you guys right now, going through amazing. Other people are in the I, investing in real estate. Because when you're on that side, you make more money and pay less tax. The last diagram I want to show you is this. This is what's really amazing about amazing. Is the BI triangle. That's a business. I know most of you are struggling with, a lot of you are struggling with product. Product is the least important thing of all. It's what amazing teaches you are the other 8 steps. Product, legal, systems, communication, cash flow, mission, team, leadership. If you have that, you have a business. If you just have a product, you're a salesman, an S. So there's a very, very big difference. This is on the B and the I side right now. Some of you may make it to that. Some of you are there. Some of you really want to make a lot of money. I'm just going to say this. The problem with making a lot of money is tax. I know, I make $25,000 a month. Oh, jeez. How much are you going to pay in tax? You know? The S quadrant, which you saw earlier, S stands for stars, like movie stars, football stars, basketball stars. These guys who are multimillionaires in their 20s playing football or baseball or singing in Hollywood or whatever they do, 65% are bankrupt 5 years later after making millions. So your challenge right now is to take the cash you make and turn it into one of these, an asset. For example, I make millions of dollars, but it all goes to real estate fast. Why? Because if I don't move it to real estate, I pay tax on it. You can do the same thing, but you have to make a lot of money first. Okay? I want to say the last thing is this before I bring up my friends. The tax laws are fair. All of you can do the same tax laws I operate in. All of you can. Employees, self-employed, big business investors, poor people can use the same tax law. The reason they don't understand tax is because our school system doesn't teach you about tax or debt. How many people have ever heard that you should get out of debt? You know how stupid that is? Debt is what makes the rich richer, not money. It's opposite, other side of the coin. How many people have heard, you know, Dave Ramsey is my friend on radio, he's a great guy, but his shtick is debt-free. I say, Dave, that's bad information. He goes, yeah, I know, but for most people, that's good information. If you have no financial education, you should be debt-free. But you guys here at Amazing, you have a chance to bust that mold. I use debt. I borrow millions. Why? It's tax-free. So with that, if you can keep that in mind, I'll bring my buddies up here. So my team, come up here, please. Let's have a big hand for them. While they're coming up, yesterday we had there are people who came through the Rich Dad organization with a joint venture with Amazing. How many people were at the event with me yesterday in this room? Thank you, thank you, thank you. There was about 180, and I was saying the best thing about Amazing is you guys get it fast. Yesterday I was talking to the people who just came through the Rich Dad pipeline into Amazing. I could go 1,000% faster with them because they've been through the 8-step program. Like I said, what you're getting is basically 8 years in 8 weeks. But because of that 8 weeks, you know, they haven't mastered it all yet, but because of that, I can go faster. You know, because when I talk to a normal audience of school teachers and that, they don't get it. You know, they want job security. But talking to people from Amazing, you guys get it. So yesterday was pure heaven for my team and I, because we could go as fast. I thought I was putting a fire hose down their mouths and pumping them full of energy, man. So I want to thank the Amazing Academy because it makes my life easier. You know, we're on the same team. So if you notice on the BI triangle up here, one of the most important things, once you have your business up and running, you can afford the best team possible. I was cracking up with my employees who are in Amazing, and they were looking for partners. And I wasn't laughing at them. Yeah, I was. But anyway, I was laughing with them because I've had the worst partners on earth. You know, and how many people have ever had a bad partner? You know, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes. But the good thing is this, let me offer you a word of encouragement. Out of every bad partner, I made a great partner. Please write that down, okay? So don't be afraid of a bad partner. Just be afraid you don't have the guts to fire them. Because I met these guys out of bad partners. Okay. So with that, this is Ken McElroy. And Tom Wheelwright. And Kenny is my debt guy. Next time somebody says to you, get out of debt, think of this face here, okay? Because Kenny and I are after eyeballs in debt, right? Yes. My eyeballs are a little higher, so it means I'm more full of shit than everybody else. But debt makes us richer because we invest in real estate. So we take our cash from my company and I move it immediately into real estate, max it with debt. So if I give Kenny $1 million, he ramps up to $5 million. He borrows $4 million. That's how you get rich, debt. At these interest rates, if you're not in debt, you're nuts, okay? And this is Tom Wheelwright. He is Rich Dad Advisor on taxes. Okay. So Tom is an expert in international tax law. Okay? And taxes are the same all over the world, right? So once you take it off, because you start with taxes, and then introduce yourself, your background real quick and all this. So you want a team next. You want guys like Tom and Kenny on your team, because that's how you get richer. Not your brother-in-law who's an idiot, okay? How many people know what I'm talking about? I meet so many people, oh yeah, I don't have to worry. My brother-in-law is a financial planner. Oh. Tom, what do you want to say?
So I'm just curious, how many of you hate paying taxes? Raise your hand. And how many of you really hate paying taxes? Raise your hand. So I've spent the last 30 years specifically working with entrepreneurs and investors to permanently lower their taxes by anywhere from 10 to 30%. It takes about 3 months to do. My background, I spent 7 years with one of the largest accounting firms in the world, Ernst & Young. Another several years as the in-house tax advisor for a Fortune 500 company. Spent 14 years as an adjunct professor in the Masters of Tax program at Arizona State University. And for the last 20 years, I know it doesn't add up, but for the last 20 years, it's creative accounting. For the last 20 years, have been running Provision, which is an international CPA firm based out of Phoenix. And we are all over the world, 6 continents, 50 states, 30 countries. So, what I want to talk about is why, when Robert talks about the ESBI and why the employees and self-employed pay so much tax, and the B and the I, we're not talking about dodging taxes. We're not talking about tax loopholes. The tax law is about 5,800 pages of just the law itself. No regulations, rules, that's all besides that. Of that 5,800 pages, there's one line that says all income's taxable unless we say it isn't. Then there's about 29 pages of charts and tables to tell you how much tax to pay on all of that income. So that leaves about 5,770 pages that are nothing more or less than a roadmap and a direction to reduce your taxes. That's all it is. See, the tax law is a series of incentives for business owners like you. So all you have to do is understand the tax law. But I'm curious, how many of you love the 8-week recipe of amazing.com? Raise your hand. I mean, how many of you really love it? Want to hear it? And what's amazing about it, the reason it's amazing is because it's a recipe. It's step by step by step. How many of you like knowing everything you're supposed to do to make money? Right? That's all the tax law is. It's step by step by step of how to reduce your taxes. That's all it is. Once you get that concept, that idea, that if I do what the government wants me to do, I'll pay less taxes.
Let me give you an example. The government says if you buy a house to live in, they give you a what?
A mortgage interest deduction.
That's an incentive. They want you to buy a house. You make a charitable donation, that's in.
You get a deduction.
So if you look at tax, what Tom opened my eyes to is tax are only incentives. Now the problem is, if you're an employee or you're a small business guy or a sports star or a specialist like a doctor or a lawyer, the tax laws are against them, right?
Right. I mean, out of that almost 5,800 pages of incentives, only about 400 pages apply to the employees. That's it.
Can you help an employee?
Really not at all. I mean, if somebody comes to me and say, I'm not going to be an active investor, that's the I side. I'm not going to be an active business owner, the S and the B side. My response is, you know what? Max out your 401k. I mean, you know, go for it. There is nothing you can do.
The irony of it in America is the people that pay the highest taxes are employees, self-employed, savers, and 401k investors. They pay the highest taxes possible. And that's what they tell you to do. Stupid. So with that, I want to introduce Kenny because we're only limited time here. But when I make $1 million in my business, I've got to move it to Kenny. I'll say it again because I'll give Kenny $1 million, he'll match it with 4, and we're now into the deal for $5 million. Debt makes us richer. Taxes make us richer. Debt makes us richer. This is the B and the I side, not the E and the S side. Kenny.
Sure. Hi. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I was lucky enough to go to university. My parents didn't have a college education or anything, and I didn't have any money, and they didn't have any money, and so I started racking up school debt. How many people can relate to that? So here I was, I took a job managing an apartment building in downtown Seattle to try to, because I got free rent, and you know, how hard is it to collect rent? So that's how I got immersed into the business that I'm in now. So I was sitting there one day after just all kinds of great stories that you guys would love, but I don't have time to talk about. And the owner pulls up in his Mercedes to collect that month's rent, you know, which of course I'm handing him over, and he's heading to the bank. And this happened month after month after month. And of course, you know, I'm a little slow. So I thought to myself, I am definitely on the wrong side of this desk. And that's actually when I started to get smarter. You know, I was just finishing up my university degree in business, and I wanted to know what that guy knew. And so I immersed myself into both equity and debt. And what we're going to talk about today is debt. And what I realized was that I wanted to start my own property management firm, which I did, and I quickly moved from an E to an S. But then I started. I was making money after about a year, but then of course, gone, taxes, and I'm like, okay, so now I've basically moved from working for somebody to working for myself, but I'm really financially no better off because I was paying it all to the government, and I realized how little bit I did not know. And that's when I started moving it into real estate, and I started to buy real estate, and started with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and just grew from there. And today, my company's based in Scottsdale, Arizona. We have offices all over the western U.S. now. We have 10,000 units and about 250 employees full-time, and little about $600 million worth of real estate that we own now. Thank you.
This is the point. I mean, so many people say, I don't have money. And the reason they don't have money is on the E and the S side. On the B and the I side, our job is to raise capital constantly. That's all we're doing is raising capital. That's my job. So how much debt have you raised? Or
a lot. Who knows? I'm
I'm
heavily in debt.
You know, there's different formulas. As Warren Buffett says, there's many ways to get to financial heaven. But we don't sell. I don't sell my businesses. I don't sell anything. Because the moment I sell, what happens?
Pay tax.
Tax. And so this is the point. So what Kenny does I invest with Kenny as an I into the B of Kenny is that Kenny improves the property and he borrows out the equity. It's called a refi. So some of our properties are floating on 100% debt, producing cash. If we sold the property, how much tax would have to, what percent tax?
25%.
So we never sell, we don't flip real estate, I don't sell my businesses and all that. Because the moment you do that, you have a tax consequence, it's called. And all of this stuff, some of you know, some of you will learn it the hard way. But don't sell. You just buy, improve, finance out. Right? Is that your formula?
Yeah, and of course, there's good debt and bad debt. Bad debt, of course, is, in the rich dad cash flow game, it's called doodads, cars and things like that are depreciable and depreciate quickly. I'm talking about good debt that the bank actually gives you and is covered by the rent payments from all my tenants. So the banks give you money because they get the real estate as collateral. And so what we're saying here is, when all you guys go put all your money that you're making into the bank, it's actually a liability to the bank. The bank actually has to pay you interest. So it's an expense to them. And the only way they make money is to lend it. So they lend it to guys like me to buy big apartment houses, which is currently what we're doing in self-storage. And then, of course, we put people into those things to cover the mortgage payments. So the model's the same. We don't sell anything. We don't flip. It's a long-term business strategy, and it's a cash flow-based business, not a capital gain business, which is we're just trying to time the markets. So we acquired a lot of real estate in the last 4 or 5 years during the recession, and all at low prices and at low debt.
Oh, excuse me. My wife is supposed to come up here, but she's hiding I can't see her back there. So, hey, may I hand for my sweetheart here? So while Kim is coming up here, big hand for my sweetheart. I couldn't see you back there. So the reason for this, when I met Kim back in '84, I had no money, so I knew she didn't marry me for money because I didn't have any. So, but we had a plan, we'd work together, and Kim started investing in real estate. And she's an entrepreneur, she has her own company and all that stuff. But then we kept growing, and then we met Kenny, and we're loaded in debt and loaded in property and all this. So anything you want to say to the women about being an entrepreneur, and it's the other side of the coin. I know some of you right now are squirming in your seats saying, debt is bad. I know some of you are squirming in your seat saying, well, if you don't pay tax, you go to jail. And that is true on the E and the S side, but it's not true on the side of the rich. So some of you thinking you'll go to jail for taxes because your mommy and daddy said, employees go to jail. They do go to jail for tax evasion. So do doctors and lawyers. But on the B and the I side, we don't. The other thing that's opposite side of the coin is we don't sell. So when I met Kim back in '84, it was kind of an education, right?
Oh, it was totally an education. Matter of fact, I was, my very first job out of college, full-time job, I was fired not once, I was fired twice. I hated being told what to do, but I also knew that I didn't want to learn a job, I wanted to learn business. I loved business. So our first date, one of the questions Robert asked me, he said, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want my own business, but I was never around entrepreneurs. There was no 8-step amazing academy.
So it's so lucky.
You're so lucky. You're so lucky. I mean, we really did it the hard way, and about 2 months after we met, Robert said, well, I can help you with that, and I have friends, and I've started some businesses, so about 2 months later, I had my first business. And it has been a process. You know, we talk about team. We've got Kenny and Tom and other members of our team. They weren't there at the beginning. You know, it's a process that you build and you work at, and we've built several businesses together. And when Robert says you're in the right place at the right time, I totally agree, because you've got this whole thing called the internet that takes you internationally like that. We had to go get on planes and knock on doors and do all of that. But it's a process, and I think the most important thing for me is figuring out what was my reason for being in business, because you know you're gonna hit the wall, you're gonna fall down, you're gonna make mistakes, and you've got to have that reason inside of you that keeps you going when times get tough. Because if you don't have that bigger reason, the bigger reason why you're doing this, you're gonna quit. So I think that's the most important thing. But I do want to acknowledge the women that are here. There's a lot of women. Congratulations. Fabulous. I just want to encourage you to grow your businesses, grow them big, be role models for women, for young women, be role models for other entrepreneur females. And also notice there's a lot of couples building their businesses together, yes? Fantastic. That's fantastic, because also when Robert and I got together, we decided we wanted to build our businesses together because we wanted to grow together and learn together. So many couples grow apart over the years because they have less and less in common. So hopefully your spouse or your partner is your greatest asset and not a liability. Sometimes we're both of each to each other, but we're a good team. And I just want to acknowledge all of you for being here. I think entrepreneurship is the way to go. It's what's needed right now in this crazy economy of ours. So I just applaud you all. Thank you.
So in closing, you know, like when I met Kim, I was in rock and roll. I had licensing contracts with Duran Duran. These bands are gone now. Duran Duran, The Police, Iron Maiden, Van Halen, Boy George, and those guys. And I was in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and it was really a lot of fun. But when you look down at, if you look at the BI triangle, it's the mission. The question is, what are you here for? You know, so after I learned how to build businesses and all that, the next level is, what is my life's purpose? So today I like making money and all that, but the reason the Rich Dad Company was formed and the reason we joint venture with Amazing is our mission is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. Our school systems are screwing up. Our school systems are still saying to people, go to school and get A. And what's happening is, of course they're lying about it, they say unemployment's going down, it's actually going up. Technology, terrorism, and other things are just wiping out jobs. So you guys are in the right place at the right time. My president, Shane Caniglia, who I'm not in the tech world because I'm an old guy, but he says what's coming down the pike are other products that support you in becoming entrepreneurs who can change the world. See, my hero was always Steve Jobs. The guy changed the world. And so what Shane says is that we're coming up with products such as how to get out of debt and other things, that I don't do anymore. How to get out of bad debt, yeah. So it's all about education. The most important thing that we're doing at Rich Dad is we have games, and games are how kids learn. I learned playing Monopoly. So today we're producing games that are broadcast all over the world to teach kids to be entrepreneurs and investors on the B and the I side. So that's our mission today. When you have enough money, when you've made enough money, and they go, well, making money is not that big a deal anymore, then the question is, what's your mission in life? And I ask you to consider this, that the main reason you're here, learn to be entrepreneurs, is to make this world a better place. That is our only mission. So with that, thank you. I want to thank the Amazing Academy for having the most brilliant program. I'll say it again. They've taken 8 years of black and blue hard knocks and compressed it into super black and blue hard knocks in 8 weeks. Congratulations.